The two very different men sensed that working together they might accomplish more than by working alone. Perhaps they could compel their fellow delegates to action. All right, so they finally now respect each other. They've become friends, and they see that they both have strengths that when they work together, they're more powerful. Tom with his writing and John with his talking and the way he's able to communicate and give speeches very well. Endless debate they knew was no longer an option. King George's troops had already shot colonists in Lexington and Concord and burned Charlestown to the ground. George now vowed to put a speedy end to the rebellion in the colonies and punish the rebels for treason. By 1776, John and Tom felt the time had come for America to break from King George and declare independence. But many delegates still had doubts. How could a small gathering of colonies square off against perhaps the mightiest country in the world? So some of the delegates in the Continental Congress are just scared that they don't have a chance standing up to Great Britain, this mighty empire. So here's the little colonist over here trying to stand up to this mighty empire of Great Britain. John and Tom knew that a united America depended on a unanimous vote. That means they all had to agree and stand up as one if they had a chance to fight against King George. Could John's powers of persuasion and Tom's skill with a pen convince the naysayers to vote yea? If so, Congress would need to prepare a statement to the world explaining why America should be free. Who could write such a document? More than any other delegate in Congress, John had championed the cause of independence. "You should do it," Tom told him. "Oh, no," John exclaimed. Any declaration he wrote would be severely criticized from other delegates. He conceded, found him obnoxious. So the other guys found John Adams a little obnoxious, and he knew that they would not like his writing. The declaration should be written by a delegate from Virginia, the oldest and most powerful colony in America. More importantly, John told Tom, "You can write 10 times better than I can." "Well," Tom replied, "if you are decided, I will do as well as I can." So here is John Adams handing over the pen and saying to Thomas Jefferson, "You've got to be the one that writes down all of our ideas and plans and why we want to be independent." In the quiet of his rooms on Market Street, Tom worked on the Declaration of Independence, trying to craft an expression of the American mind in terms so plain and firm that people around the world would rally to America's side. He began with a statement of basic freedoms and ended with a long list of grievances against King George. One grievance Tom included was slavery, an issue he had struggled with for years. "It was a cruel institution," Tom wrote, "and George thwarted every attempt America made to end it." And yet, like many men in Congress, Tom himself owned slaves. As he penned this document on freedom, his 14-year-old slave, Bob Hemmings, brought him tea. Hour after hour, Tom sat at his little desk, writing and thinking and writing some more. So Thomas Jefferson wrote out the Declaration of Independence, and he first stated all of the basic freedoms that they wanted their citizens to have in their new country, America, and he ended by listing all the grievances or the things that they did not like about King George and that he had done. And Thomas Jefferson even included that he knew that slavery was wrong, and when they had tried to get rid of slavery, King George wouldn't let them get rid of it or abolish it. But Thomas Jefferson did have slaves, and there's one of his slaves, Bob Hemmings, bringing him his tea while Thomas Jefferson is working on his draft of the Declaration of Independence, his rough draft. But it's pretty interesting that he wrote that slavery was wrong and that they should abolish it. That means get rid of it. Meanwhile, John prepared himself for the greatest debate of all, the vote on independence. Storm clouds gathered as he stood and faced Congress. Above the crack of lightning and the boom of thunder, John spoke on, trying to convince the last naysayers to change their minds. From his place with the Virginia delegation, Tom marveled as John rallied the delegates. His power of thought and expression, Tom later wrote, moved us from our seats. Finally, the next morning, after almost 2 years of turmoil, a united America was ready to vote yay, or yes. So John Adams gave a powerful speech and rallied all the delegates together. After 2 years of them meeting and disagreeing, they finally have agreed that yes, we like this Declaration of Independence, and it is time to stand up to King George. So there's John Adams giving the speech to the delegates, and they're all voting yay. The delegates now turned to Tom's declaration. He squirmed and suffered as they fine-tuned phrases and trimmed passages, including his condemnation of slavery, an issue the country would not resolve for almost 100 years. So they are editing his rough draft, and they're trimming it down and cutting out parts, and they even cut out the part about slavery because they thought that, let's worry about that later, let's just focus on becoming independent. And sadly, slavery was not fixed for 100 more years. There was slavery in America. The delegates cut and cut out words until soon Tom's work was only 1 page long, an expression in terms plain and firm of American independence. So they cut down his rough draft of the Declaration of Independence to 1 page. And here is a quote from it. "We solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from the allegiance to the British Crown, and for the support of this declaration, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor." So that's part of the Declaration of Independence that they kept. And look, here's poor Thomas Jefferson, nervous and stressed out because they are editing his rough draft, and they cut it down to only 1 page long. They only wanted the most important parts. Remember, it was all about why America should be free and independent and why they disagreed with King George. In cities and towns, bells rang out as the Declaration was read aloud. Americans paraded, lit bonfires, and toasted farewell to England. In New York City, they even pulled down the statue of good King George. Remember, we read about that in If We Lived at the Time of the Revolution. They pulled down the statue of King George. So this must have been the day that the Declaration of Independence came out, because it said they threw big parties, tore down the statue of King George, and made toast of, yay, we are going to be independent from Great Britain. Throughout the states, the United States, Americans celebrated the end of British oppression. They savored the promise of a new future, and they cheered the group of men who left behind family and friends to meet in Philadelphia. So all the delegates that met together in the Continental Congress and made this Declaration of Independence, they celebrated them. And look, here's a picture of them holding the Declaration of Independence, and they're so excited about it, and they're having bonfires and fireworks and ringing the bells. It's making all the colonists get excited and feel like they finally can be heard and have a chance to stand up to Great Britain. So they celebrated the delegates, and here's some of their names: Hancock, Lee, Sherman, Livingston, Franklin, Rush, Rodney, Harrison, and all the others who launched a new nation with those rebels, John and Tom. So obviously there's other founding fathers that are very famous, but you guys got to learn about these two, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, okay? And remember, John Adams, even though he was small, he had a powerful voice, and he helped the delegates agree and make a decision. Remember, Thomas Jefferson, even though he was quiet, he was a powerful writer, and he wrote the Declaration of Independence. And look, here's some of the signatures when they signed, all 50 of the delegates from the Continental Congress, they signed the Declaration of Independence. And remember, we already learned that John Hancock, here's his signature at the top. He made his name the biggest because he wanted to make sure King George saw his name. He was very passionate about this Declaration of Independence and America being a free country. And here it actually is a copy of the actual Declaration of Independence. And that is it. So I hope you enjoyed those rebels, John and Tom. I do have a little quiz for you guys on Google Classroom. You don't need to stress. It's not for a grade. It's just practice. And I wish you could have this copy in front of you so that you could flip back through the book, but just do your best. I think there's a way, though, that you can check this book out online. It is an AR book, so if you can check out this book online as an AR book and get the ebook, I would do that so you have a copy to look back through. But yeah, just do your best, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. I love y'all so much, and I miss you.